Hey, what's good with y'all, man? We back with another video. Today we got a dark vintage sample video. I'm going to be going more in depth on processing and the effects, and the goal is to just help you guys have better sound selection, because no matter how good the MIDI is, if your sound selection is poor, then there's really no point. So with that being said, let's get straight to it. So here we are in the sample. I'm going to play the full sample at the end of the video. So this sample is actually pretty simple. We have a guitar, and then we have some vocals, which I recorded myself. I'm gonna show you guys all of that, and then some little synth keys and pads, and then just a little bit of like a vintage noise. I started with this guitar. Right, pretty simple, an acoustic guitar. Now for this sample, I did use my like mini acoustic guitar. It's not a full-size guitar, but that's what I used to record on here. Now as far as recording guitar, as you can see, I have a very long take here. Now one thing I obviously did was use Speed. The guitar recording is a lot slower compared to this version. I also pitched it down. Now as far as the effects, the part that a lot of you guys are here for, this is some processing that I learned again from Desright, really dope sample makers like Oscar Zulu, Coop the Truth, all these type of guys. Number one is EQ. EQ is very important because you want to shape the sound. Here are the EQs that I use. I got one. I have this Pultec EQ with this custom preset, and then I have this one right here, and a lot of them are removing those heavy low mids that I have. Another really good tip I could give you guys is when you're recording guitar or vocals, you want to try to cut out around the 500 hertz range. As you can see here, I'm starting at like the 120, and I'm starting to dip down around the 500 hertz for this second one right here. Again, over here I'm dipping around the 300, so around that 300 to 500 range is where a lot of the low mid sound kind of lays, and you want to just clean that up as best as you can. Obviously don't take too much out because it's going to have no body to the sound. It's going to be very plain. I got a little bit of reverb on here, the stock Valhalla vintage reverb, and then I have a compressor. Now compressor is really important because I've had a couple people ask me in the comments like, why do I use compressors, or what do they do? When you're recording, you're going to have a lot of these peaks where the audio gets really loud, and then you're gonna have parts where it's a little more quiet, maybe like here, and the compressor just helps center that and kind of compress it so it's all in one medium range. And then lastly, just another EQ, just a lot of EQs on here, and then I pan this a little bit to the left. Now, one thing I did that I also learned from a lot of other great sample makers is I routed it to a bus. So as you can see down here, the guitar is routed to the master, and I turned the volume down from 100 down to 84. That's because I wanted to mix the dry signal of the guitar with the wet signal. The wet signal I routed to another track, which is this one, track 5, and on here I got some delays. I got Galaxy Tape Echo, and then I got the Valhalla delay. Now I turned this one down from 100 all the way down to 69, just trying to find a good blend between both the dry signal and the wet signal. The dry signal panned a little bit to the left, and the wet signal is panned a little bit to the right, just to get a more stereo full sound instead of having them both in the center. The effects on here are pretty simple. Like I said, a simple delay. You guys could look at my settings, copy them if you would like. I will say for both of these, I put the mix on 100 because I already have the dry signal coming in through the second mixer track. For the fifth mixer track, the one where I have the effects, I want it to be pure effects, so I put it on 100 mix. And here's how that sounds alone. So just a really cool like underwater muffled vintage like delay type of sound, and then the dry guitar sounds like this. But moving on, we have the vocals. The vocals were pretty simple, nothing too much. I'm gonna kind of just speed run these. So the vocals alone may sound a little like trash, but in the sample it sounds a lot better and it blends very well. But they may sound a little trash because I did not use autotune. For this one, I wanted to go for an authentic, real feel. I was like, fuck it, no autotune. I'm gonna do the best I can and just get it perfect as I can. So to quickly break down these vocals, I started with some Speed. I recorded at 90 BPM. I put everything on stretch, and I sped it to 120. This gives it a little bit of vibrato, and it gives yourself a little more time to just hit the notes the best you can. And then as far as in the channel rack, I just leveled them, the volume, and then I panned them. I have certain panned to the left a little bit, to the right a lot more. This is what you really want to tend to do when you record vocal stacks. It makes everything a lot more full and a lot more wide. And as far as the processing, pretty similar to the guitar. I have a dry signal coming through the track 3, and I have it routed to track 4, which is where I have the wet signal and I have the effects on here. On here I only have a EQ. Pretty pretty simple. Just like the guitar, cutting around that 300 to 500 hertz range is really a game changer for making your stuff not sound so muddy. And then I just lower some of the high end just so it's a little more vintage, and then that's the dry signal. I also turned it all the way down to 25, I believe, so it's barely coming through. You see, it's very, very quiet, and a lot of the volume is coming from the wet signal. So I routed it to track 4. On here it's pretty simple, just a regular Valhalla reverb, just make it sound very ambient. Another EQ, cutting those, like, you know, 300 to 500 range, lowering some of those high crisp. And then again, same thing. And then a compressor just completely slamming the vocals. But yeah, man, that's pretty much it for the vocals. I have it panned to the left. And then for the wet signal, I like to turn this little button on. It's called swap left and right channels. This basically just makes it so if this is panned to the left, instead of this being panned to the left, when you hit this, it's gonna swap it. So it's gonna be panned to the right. And that's it for the vocals. I just rendered it out into this one recording just to make it a little more organized. Last but not least, added a couple little layers. Just to quickly run through them, I added this little synth from my Rev 2. Little top line. Again, the processing on here was pretty dope. I used this J37 stereo, this Abbey Road default preset, and I turned up the saturation. Again, I got this from Desright again. This guy loves to use this J37 and he loves to use his little saturation knob, and without it, it sounds kind of boring and plain. That little touch of saturation just makes it sound a lot more gritty, warm, and just vintage to me, and it just sounds really nice. And I'm not gonna lie, I've been spamming it on like every sample I've been making this past October. The last time I added was to just add a little more bass, a little more of like a body to the sample, and I'm just kind of playing the same chords and notes that I played on the guitar, just with this pad from my Rev 2. Processing on here, again, I did that little bus trick. I have the dry signal on here. 100% is going through the master though, and I just have a retro tape on here, making it sound a lot more vintage. And then a little bit of it is coming through this second channel. A little bit of delay on here. I have it at 95, little 1/4 delay. I like to turn the drive up a lot on here as well, like I did with the J37 stereo, just add that distortion to it. Lastly, just some noise, just a little like white noise texture. And as far as the master, man, everything's pretty much done. On here, I got this J37 stereo again. I really just turned up the saturation and noise level again, and I have this Abbey Road default preset. I pitched up the whole sample by 2. I have this compressor, very lightly compressing the sample, kind of just making everything sound more leveled. And I like to add it just to make it louder, and then to make it even louder, I got a limiter on here, only raising the gain. But that's pretty much it, man. The full sample with the effects sounds like this. But yeah, man, that's pretty much it for this video. Hope you guys did enjoy and learn something new. A lot of processing sauce that I've been using lately that I've learned, that I hope you guys can learn as well using your samples. Yeah, man, hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys did, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell so you don't miss any more videos. You guys have been showing a lot of love on the past 2 Drake videos and the Nico Braun video. If you haven't seen those, check them out. Yeah, man, that's pretty much it, and I'll see you guys in the next video.